Our next story is from Indonesia. Hundreds of people were protesting yesterday outside the parliament building in the capital, Jakarta. The demonstrators are furious about a change to the country's military law. Indonesia's parliament gave their military a greater role in civilian affairs. It allowed sitting military personnel to take charge of government offices. And Indonesian people were furious about this because they've seen this before. Their country was once under a ruthless military dictatorship. And the protesters feel that this is a step back to darker times. Here's our report.
What do you think the role of the military should be? Protecting a nation against external threats? Safeguarding sovereign territory and the border? Helping rescue people during disasters? All of these things seem like the military's job. But what about prosecuting crimes? Providing administrative help to the president's household? Or even handling press briefings and media affairs for the presidency? Are these the things military officers should be doing? Well, in Indonesia, now they can. Because the country just amended its military law. It has expanded the military's role in civilian affairs. From now on, serving members of the Indonesian military can hold dual functions. Active duty soldiers can now hold civilian posts, including at the Attorney General's office and the State Secretariat. Indonesia's parliament voted to allow this, and this has infuriated ordinary people. They were protesting yesterday outside the parliament building in Jakarta, and things turned violent as the law was passed. They are angry because they have seen this play out before, during the dark days of the Suharto dictatorship. Suharto was an army general who became Indonesia's second president. He was in power for 32 years, and he blurred all lines between civilian and military government. He called it the New Order, Orde Baru in the Indonesian language, and it was a brutal time.
In the 32 years that Suharto was in power, there were so many human rights violations where the military was involved. And if this law is passed, then this will only strengthen their impunity and will make it harder for victims and their families of human rights crimes to achieve justice as the military's power is increased instead of otherwise.
Suharto was finally ousted in 1998 after deadly riots in May that year. Thousands of people were killed in the unrest. And this finally forced Suharto to step down. But now, the spectre of his new order is back.
Our fight to erase the military role from the socio-political sphere was arduous. We sacrificed so much. Students were killed, thousands had to die, including in the May 1998 tragedy. Tens of activists were kidnapped and some have not returned home. And today it feels like we are going backwards.
That is why Indonesians are angry. They feel they are going back to darker times. And there's little they can do except protest, because these changes are backed by the country's president. Prabowo won Indonesia's presidential election last year. He campaigned as a sweet old grandfather figure, and it helped him win with a landslide. His campaign helped people forget that he was once a military strongman who worked for the dictator Suharto. In fact, he didn't just work for Suharto. Prabowo was also the dictator's son-in-law. But apparently, time heals all, even the reputation of a dictator's son-in-law. So, Prabowo won last year's election, and now he's bringing the Indonesian military back into civilian life. So it seems ordinary Indonesians will have to march again to send the military back to the barracks.
bangkit melawan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Do you think that Ukraine is at its weakest position?
This war is not about Ukraine.
Do you believe that your president was insulted? Yes or no question. Is Ukraine prepared to pay the price for that peace?
No compromises at the cost of territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Diplomacy will work?
Yes,
Do you
it
think
will.
Russia will give up the territory if there is no ceasefire? Do you propose to keep fighting?
We are ready to resist.
Do you think there will be peace?
Many countries gave us 3 days.
President Trump said you don't have any cards.
We do not have another choice.
How do you keep fighting?
You ask me once again the same question.
Because you've not answered my question.
We have enough capacities to keep fighting.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister Lakshman.
Good afternoon.
Making headlines in India well before you landed here.
New Delhi has raised concerns in the recent past vis-a-vis the Khalistani separatists that operate in New Zealand. How do you propose to address these concerns?
In our democracy, we believe in the freedom of speech.
Organizations like the Al-Qaeda or ISIS were to hold a referendum in New Zealand, something related to one of your Western partners. Would you say the same?
We have very well-defined laws in our democracy.
No specific conversation on Khalistan on this visit.
It was raised with me. I also raised back our position.
Are you willing to be open to these concerns from New Delhi?
As I keep coming back to you to say, we have strong laws in our system.